All right, afternoon guys. Coach Alex here with Athletics Fitness. I wanted to go ahead and address today a common question that we get from parents and athletes, and that's how can my athlete or how do I put on muscle mass for my sport? So there's three different areas we like to touch on when we're talking to athletes and parents about how to help them put on muscle mass, okay? The first area that I think is so often overlooked on the internet, from parents, from athletes, and that's, is the athlete actually working hard enough in the weight room to induce gains in muscle and strength, okay? Now there's a couple ways that we can frame this and look at this. The first is to look at and assess, is the athlete getting stronger over time? So now it is possible to get stronger without putting on muscle mass, but at this stage in the game with most high school training programs that I've seen, more often than not, they're going to induce a mix of strength gains that come from neurological improvements or just the athletes moving better, learning how to do the movements better, and then also from muscular gains. So strength that we gain from increasing the cross-sectional size of a muscle. Okay, those are kind of the two primary ways that we can drive strength, or the two more distinct baskets. Okay, so are they getting stronger over time? And this would be something that we'd look at and we'd say, is the coach testing the athletes in a given lift or lifts to see if they're getting stronger? But we can also assess this on a week-over-week basis and say, hey, assuming that we have some consistency in the program, are they able to do the same amount of work, number of reps in a set, with a greater weight week over week? Or conversely, are they able to do more reps with the same amount of weight week over week? Okay? Those are the two kind of easy ways that we can look at programming and say, hey, is the athlete able to follow this program and actually increase the amount of work that they're doing over time? That's the easiest way to assess, hey, are they actually doing that? Are they increasing the amount of work that they're doing? Then yes, they're getting stronger. In all likelihood, they'll get to a point, if they continue doing that, where yes, they will be working hard enough in the weight room or close enough to failure to induce those gains that we want to make. So that's the easiest way to talk about it. We can also get at this by communicating with the athlete the importance of approaching failure and what that does to the body, the effects of that. And that's the other way that we can kind of get at this before the programming takes effect. So in our example at Athletics, we like to start our base programs at a level of challenge that the athlete can definitely achieve. So we're ultra conservative at the start. We know that the athlete is probably, in all likelihood, going to be able to achieve the work that we're asking them to do without too much challenge. So we might not be inducing much change at the get-go. But that's because we're trying to make sure that their technique is solid. Once that's shored up, then we go ahead and more or less quickly increase the amount of work that they're doing over time. And then we get that solid technical foundation, those neurological improvements, and that is where strength gains tend to happen. So again, is your athlete working hard enough? So this is more on the coach, making sure that the programming is structured the right way, such that the athlete is putting enough effort in or is forced to put enough effort in. And then it's on the athlete to make sure that they're giving everything that they have when they're in the gym every day, getting all their reps and sets done, increasing the weights as they go. So it needs to be a two-way street there. Okay, now to the diet-related pieces of how to put on muscle mass. So let's talk first about getting enough protein in. So everybody knows that in order to increase muscle mass, to improve recovery, we need to make sure we're getting in enough amino acids from protein. So now how much is appropriate? We actually don't like to dwell on a number. So we don't go to athletes and parents and say, hey, your athlete needs to get 1 gram per pound of body weight. Because then what's gonna happen? They're gonna go in there and figure out, well, my athlete's 150 pounds, he needs 150 grams. What does that look like? Get out my calculator. All right, well, what kind of foods have that kind of grammage of protein in? It's a mess, and rarely is the athlete going to hold themselves accountable enough to enter anything into a phone or try and really track how many grams of protein they're getting in on a daily basis. So instead, what we do at Athletics is we educate our athletes and parents on what a protein source is. To us, a protein source is a food that is calorically dominated by the macronutrient protein. So if you looked at the caloric breakdown of the food, the majority of the calories coming in that food are coming from protein as a macronutrient, not carbs or fat, okay? So almond butter, peanut butter, nuts, so on and so forth, those are not protein sources because predominantly the calories are coming from fat. We care about meat, fish, eggs, whey protein powders, Greek yogurt, so on and so forth, the things that are predominantly protein. And what we ask our athletes to do is get in 4 to 5 servings of these foods a day. Basically, eat the food as part of a meal or as a snack until you're full. Okay? So we don't give them a quantity or anything like that. Very, very simply, hey, breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe a snack or 2 throughout the day, and you're good to go. Okay? Get protein in with every meal. And that is typically sufficient enough to give them enough protein to supplement their recovery and to make sure that they're supporting muscular gains. Okay? So don't dwell on numbers there. Just try and educate and ensure that there's consistency in those protein feedings. All right, now let's talk about what everyone wants to talk about, and that's how do I get my kid to get more calories in? So now, most folks and trainers talk about how many calories an athlete needs, all right? However, in practice, if we start dwelling on the number of calories an athlete's getting in, this house of cards is going to fall apart very, very quickly, because no athlete is aware of how many calories they're taking in on a daily basis if they're a high school athlete. You might have a driven athlete once in a while who's like, hey, I want to use MyFitnessPal and get enough food in. If that happens and I'm the coach, I want to support them. I'll help them do it, and then I can kind of monitor that process to make sure that we're not getting fixated on food. But by and large, most athletes need a simpler system. So what I like to do, especially with struggling athletes who are trying to gain weight, is I talk to them about keeping their diet consistent and supplementing with foods that they really look forward to eating. So at this point, we just need to make sure that they get enough calories in to support the growth that we're looking for. So you gotta remember, at this stage in the game, there's calories that they need for just their metabolic rate, so just keeping the lights on. There's calories that they need to fuel puberty, to fuel the growth that their body is naturally going through. They need to fuel their exercise activity, so if they're in a sport or if they're training in the off season, that takes a lot of calories. And then finally, their non-exercise activity, so walking between classes, playing around on the playgrounds, horsing around with their friends outside. All the things that kids do to be relatively active outside of their sports and outside of school, that all has an energy cost as well. So the energy costs are huge at this stage. So the best thing that we can do, instead of trying to be that parent that's trying to force more regular foods down our kids' throat, right? We try and get them to eat more of breakfast, more of the dinner that we've prepared. Instead, what we need to do is just be okay with the fact that they're just gonna eat sort of until they're full or satiated with those foods, and then give them these additional snacks on top of it that they're gonna be excited about eating, right? So an easy one to do, I use this example all the time, is the pancake diet. So most kids love eating pancakes and syrup. The key is here to choose a food like this that the athlete's gonna look forward to eating even if they are full, all right? So you can imagine your child come home, you give them their nice dinner, right? Maybe it's steak and vegetables and potatoes, something like that. So they eat that, they're full. Typically they'd be done. At this stage, this athlete who's trying to gain weight needs to eat a short stack of pancakes with syrup, okay? And you do not moderate that. Allow them to eat that food. Don't feel bad about how many calories they're getting in. This isn't something that would be sustainable as an adult necessarily if their lifestyle changes. But at this stage in the game, this is what's necessary if this athlete wants to put on some muscle mass and be able to put on the right kind of weight. So to kind of recap, are they working hard enough in the gym? We talked about some ways that you can assess that, or the athlete can assess that. Are they getting enough protein in? We talked about the pitfalls of trying to focus on the number of grams of protein. We instead just talk about what are protein sources and ensuring they're getting enough 4 to 5 feedings of that a day. And then finally, supplementing their calories with these foods that they're gonna really look forward to eating. That over time, in tandem with just keeping an eye on the scale and seeing if they are in fact gaining weight or not, that's gonna help us understand, hey, where's this baseline that we're at? How much do we need to eat additionally in just generally speaking, how many snacks a day does the athlete need, so on and so forth, to figure out if we're going in the right direction. So again, we try and keep things really, really simple with our youth athletes and just teach them the fundamentals. Don't get too wrapped up in numbers, quantities, or anything like that. That's just gonna promote food fixation and some other habits that we don't necessarily want to develop at this stage. But hopefully that makes sense, guys. I really enjoyed talking about this today. If you like the content, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button below so that you don't miss any future content from athletics. Thanks, guys, and have a great day.